Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Midnight Charette, a podcast hosted by myself, David Lee, and Marina Bourderonnet. Oh, French. Today is a French podcast. We talk entirely in French, and we talk about France because we were there recently, and that was basically the podcast. Light-hearted conversation. We do talk a little bit about architecture for a brief moment. We talk a lot about food and visiting Paris and French language and cheese and lots of other things, right? And that was the podcast. Anything else?
And your struggle doing the French meals.
Yeah, and the show ends with a summary of tips for if you're traveling to France, to prepare yourself. These are the things that I find useful, and maybe you'll find useful too. I'm talking because you're not talking, so...
That's oftentimes better.
Is there anything else with...
My last advice would also be not to have too many coffees while in France, because they're stronger than the ones here. You might not sleep.
Well, a coffee, Marina, in France is not a coffee. It's a cafe. It's a cafe. And it's actually an espresso. And for whatever reason, when you drink an espresso, it has to come in some tiny ass cup that doesn't even fucking work. And there's a little ring thing that doesn't work for your fingers. It's so pretentious.
Cafe is Italian. Café is French.
Cafe. That's what I said.
You say café.
Cafe.
Café.
Cafe. Cafe.
Okay.
Whatever. You and your tiny cups in your crossed legs. And this is the podcast. This is the Midnight Charette with myself and Marina. Here we go.
David, why are you wearing a woman's scarf?
Because I'm French.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, because I'm a woman now.
Because I'm a woman now?
I mean, you never know.
No, I feel like as a French man, you can wear a woman's scarf that's totally accessible.
You know what? You mentioned it before.
Yeah.
A few years ago. And I was like, I don't really know what you're saying. And this time we went back to France, and it was kind of like spring season, but still a little chilly. And pretty much all the men were wearing a scarf. And I was like, interesting. This is very feminine looking.
It's a very European thing. Yeah, so we were in France not too long ago for a short trip, mostly to hang out and see family. Mostly because we were in Paris for less than 24 hours when we got there and less than 24 hours when we got back. Correct?
That was enough. That was enough of Paris.
Correct. Now. I don't understand it. You do every time we go, Paris seems like an amazing place.
Maybe it's because after we lived in New York, I'm kind of like, Paris is a nice city depending on which areas you go to, like the buildings and stuff, the street, the trees, how people are dressed up and whatnot. But like shops and restaurants just look so shitty to me now, unless they're like of a certain level. I'm looking at the storefront. I'm like, this is a shitty design storefront, like kind of like the shitty ones in New York, that no one cares about. The furniture, the interior design, it's kind of like, and I'm like, it's just, and people are inefficient. I don't know. I just get annoyed. I think I can't stay in Paris more than like a few hours.
I think it's partly, it's also because you understand French and I don't. So I can easily tune out people. That's also why I like being there, is because everyone speaks English enough to where I could survive on my own if I had to, but I don't understand French, so it's really easy for, like, when in a restaurant, I don't know what anyone's saying. It just sounds like, I'm like, yeah, this is nice. That's right. And just go about my day.
I think that's what I liked here a few years ago when I moved here, because unless I was focusing and translating what people were saying, it was just like background noise. Now, not so much. Now I'm like, they're kind of in my head, which I'm kind of like, oh. But Paris, I don't know.
Not a fan.
I got really pissed off at, you know what? Like the cool, trendy spots to eat and drink and go out were all like English branded names. And I'm like, what the fuck is this about? This is like Paris, like the only one Paris that everyone knows and loves and, goes by. And I'm like, why would you want to call it? Well, one of the coffee shop we tried to go to was called Season. I'm like, why don't you call it the French word saison? Same, but French. Why does that not sound good?
Well, wasn't that always the case though? The same way here, like if something has a French name, it's much more exotic. It's much more desirable. It's more interesting. Like it's the same thing over there.
Maybe
it's English.
it is, and maybe it doesn't work for me because I live here now, and I just found it stupid.
One interesting thing that was pointed out by an architecture friend of ours is that more recently there's been a trend in the restaurants to for the design of the restaurant become really important. So like it's a theme, it's an experience, which is something that we were quite familiar with from living in New York City. Like all the restaurants are themed. It's an experience to be at that restaurant. There's the design, you experience the design and everything's figured out and everything's staged. Whereas it kind of felt like a lot of places in Paris or France in general, the restaurants, it is interesting because the emphasis is less about all that crap and more about just the food. Like, it doesn't really matter that the chairs don't make sense. They were found chairs and on the walls is painted brick and some really crappy looking sculpture made out of spoon. It doesn't really matter because like we're just there for the food and the food's really good and it's, climate's comfortable. We're good people, good wine, and that's it. But that was my reading of all of it. But more recently, there has been this influx of designed restaurants and you have to wait in line and they don't take reservations. You have to wait in the cold for half an hour to get inside and everything's decorated. And it's kind of disappointing in a way. Like I don't go to France for that. Like I've had my fair share of that from being in New York City. I don't need to wait in line. Like all that hype stuff. Like I kind of like it when it's just good food. That's it.
I do think that a lot of restaurants and cafe in France and in Paris like could really improve themselves. Like I'm sure the food is good, but because it kind of doesn't look like anything, you don't necessarily want to go there or like would rather go to a nicer place than there, right? But there's this kind of an extreme now. It's like you're trendy or nothing kind of thing. So
it's exhausting. Really.
Well, and then it's also, I don't really necessarily enjoy hanging out in those places because it puts you on a level of pressure of yourself too, to like look and act and seem like you are some kind of person that you might not be, when really you just want to go have a good bite and hang out with your friends, And I kind of don't care about that.
You have to like maintain that lifestyle when you're there, right?
Yeah.
You have to maintain the illusion that you're part of it or something like that. Yeah, it's kind of odd. But the trip started off kind of interestingly because we took a cheap flight, get on the airplane, and, we're seated next to each other. We're in the middle. You're at the aisle. I'm in the middle. We've got a stranger to my left. And it's kind of funny when you're on an airplane, you're sitting down, you're watching all the people come in. You're judging them. It's like, I fucking hope that guy doesn't sit next to me. Do not sit next to me. And you think to yourself, like, if I do, like, what can I do physically to make it look like he can't sit next to me? As if that's going to make a difference at all, right? It's like the same thing when you're sitting in class. You're trying to, like, make it look so the teacher doesn't call on you. And this older woman on the smaller side, which is appreciated in terms of physical space, sits down, cool glasses. I'm like, all right, this is fine. Sitting in silence. Then she starts talking. All right, well.
I don't know why you got so. I was so happy that she's the one who sat there. She was so nice. We should probably have swapped seats because she definitely wanted to chat, and I definitely wanted to chat with her.
Yeah, I don't know why you kept talking. Yeah, I know. But you kept talking and instigating and provoking her to keep talking. I'm like, why? Stop talking. Because it was at night too. It was the red eye, wasn't it?
Yeah, 7 p.m. Come on, what time you go to bed?
Yeah, but...
It's 3 hours to kill. I'm thinking, the more we can chat, the more time we are like burning. Because there is only so many movies I'm able to watch, and I can't sleep. So she keeps me busy for a little while. That's good. It's extending my busyness.
Yeah, we should have switched seats. It was another one of those people. There's something about middle-aged women and men even. When they're single, they just fucking go on and on and on and on.
She's not single. She's remarried.
Okay, fine.
You didn't even listen.
Well, whatever. People who are remarried, then they just go on and on and on about their lives. It's like, all right, I don't really care. She didn't ask. No.
She asked questions.
Yeah, but it was out of proportion. It was disproportionate. There's too much. It should be 50-50. If anything, it should be more about us and less about her because we're younger. And also there's two of us. And on the face of it, we'd be more interesting. It was mostly about her and a little bit about us. Also, you're traveling, everyone's stressed out. I get it. People maybe haven't slept, and maintenance of yourself kind of goes down. But she had donkey breath, and it was like we're really close.
Donkey breath?
Yeah, donkey breath.
What's that?
It's breath of a donkey.
I never experienced donkey breath. What's donkey breath?
It's when you're sitting with someone and they're talking, you just think of donkeys. That's what I thought when I was sitting and talking with them.
What?
Yeah, it hasn't happened to me before. Sometimes it's different. Sometimes it's...
You think of donkeys? Why do you think of donkeys?
It smells like donkey. I don't know what donkeys smell like, but I assume that they smell like her breath. But it smell like donkey breath.
She had bad breath?
Yeah.
Oh, I was too far. I didn't experience that.
And at first, it smelled like carrots. And I was thinking... It smells like carrots.
Like donkey carrots.
And so I actually was like, did we pack carrots? I don't remember packing carrots. And then, oh no. And because the seats, airplanes, the seats are so close that you can't, and I'm in the middle. So like if you're in the aisle, you can lean away. You know what I mean?
That's why you were like, she was talking to me, I was talking to her, and you were just like straight and kind of like turning your head toward me. And I'm like, why is he talking at me? Like, should be like, I'm talking to her right now.
I was trying to make it look like when she was talking, I would turn to you to, eliminate the donkey breath. But then I was trying to look at you and like say like, I'm really interested in how Marina responds because I don't know. This is natural to the conversation. And then turn back when you're talking, then turn away when she's talking. But it was wafts of donkey. It was difficult. And you're so close. And when you were first getting the airplane, the air circulation hasn't turned on yet. So it's just... It was cumulative, and it was just so aggressive, and there's nowhere for me to go. And but she was nice. And then, sit down. We take off. We're at altitude now. Everyone's unbuckled, right? Lights go off. Turn on the movie. This is like the universal signal that I'm watching the movie. It's nighttime because the airplane says it's nighttime. All the lights are off. I'm watching a movie. This is what's happening. Starts talking to me about the movie I'm about to watch. It's like, yeah, I don't know what the fuck you're saying. I'm watching the movie and all the lights are off. Please, be in your space.
As it's always a little awkward when you're a single traveler sitting next to a couple, because you know that the couple have that kind of like non-speaking relationship understanding thing, and you feel like you're kind of intruding their role, but that's where your seat is. So I think she was just trying to be nice.
No, we could have been anyone and she would have been talking to us.
Oh, I don't think so. I think she really liked me, so
we should have swapped seats. I don't know why we I guess you can't though, right? Because then she knows that.
The only thing that bugs me is, so she was French, but she had the dual citizenship, so she was visiting her parents down in San Diego. And she was speaking in English most of the time, but she would throw like French organization name. And I would understand, but they're very specific, so I don't really know what they're about.
Yeah.
But I could understand what they're about based on the French words. And she's just like spitting that in. And I'm like, David has probably no fucking idea what kind of organization is that, because it's French. And I'm like,
The only thought in my mind is how to avoid the breath. That's the only thought I had. And she's like, you understand what I'm saying? I'm like, yeah. That's the only thought I had. She was nice. I don't want to make it sound like she was evil or mean or anything like that. And she wasn't overly aggressive with her speak. I mean, a little aggressive, but not so much. I mean, it's if you start talking to someone at the very beginning of a long flight, it's like, you're kind of gambling that it's going to be a good relationship, because if you say something that goes sour, then you're fucked the next 7 hours of flying. I'd rather just sit in silence.
What would you say that would make it go sour?
I don't know, but this is also why I find it a little almost rude, really, when people start just projecting out their opinions at the beginning of the flight like she did. Like, oh, this is my thoughts about this, my thought about that. I'm like, okay, you have no idea who I am, right? I could be a racist for all you know, and I don't like women for all you know. And now because you spewed out all this information, we're going to be on bad terms. The safe thing to do is just to sit in silence.
But the good thing is you're never going to see these people again, so you can be in disagreement. Who cares?
Because there's 7 hours. It's like a movie. If you have a bad relationship with the person in front of you or behind you at the beginning of the movie's ruined. It's the same thing for a flight.
I guess. I don't think it was such a big deal this time. I was actually pretty happy because I was like, oh, finally there was someone nice who can like chit-chat normally, and I don't know.
Well, you weren't sat next to her. You didn't have to experience the breath. It was intense.
All right, let's move on.
So then we get to Paris, and it's funny having been back the number of times I have now. Every time I go, my initial response to things is different. This time, I'm always flattered visually by the people there. They're always dressed. I don't know what it is about the Parisians and the French, their style, but they look good. Yeah.
I was like, everyone is wearing a little scarf and a little something and a little detail, and I was like, oh my god,
everyone has a little detail.
I'm like, am I still doing that? Like, can people tell I'm French because I'm like doing it? It just looked like everybody was doing the same thing.
Kind of.
It was more flagrant for me this time than previously.
You know, in Japan, everyone looks pristine and precise, like precision. That's the thing about the Japanese wardrobe. In Paris, there's always a little detail that makes everyone a little bit different. Sometimes it's not it's not like a pin. It's not something you can see clearly, but there's something about them, and it's clear everyone spent time thinking about what they're wearing, and I don't know. I guess when they go shopping, they have a better eye and they're much more specific about. Oh, just better clothes in France. That's okay, fine. But the other thing that stood out to me was the French language. Women speaking, I found it to be cute and attractive. For whatever reason, this time, any male speaking in French, I just found it to be really fucking annoying.
Oh, me too.
They just sound like whiny babies, pretentious whiny babies. Like, it's so annoying. It's like, shut up.
I know.
It's weird.
What shocked me this time was the you know, I love doing that in elevators. Like, after somebody who came in the elevator was really annoying and left, the next flight up, I'm like,
by yourself?
By myself, I'm like, and it makes me feel so good. I just crack myself up. It makes me feel so good.
Something's wrong with you.
Yeah, something's wrong with me. But yeah, this time I was shocked by actually the level of like the pitch or the pitch, or like the echoing of the voice, like the resonance of the voice of French male when they're speaking. And I felt like their voices in general was really kind of ghosty, light, like frail. When American language, the males have more presence in their voice. And I was kind of turned off by it. I was like, oh, he just loves his masculinity or something.
Well, it is
so light. It's just so light.
Yeah. American English is very frontal, even compared to British English, which is less frontal. Like, it's very nasally, very frontal. Yeah. And French is so way in the back of your throat that
guttural.
It's guttural, and for whatever reason, when women say it, it sounds, it's attractive and cute and it fits. But when men do it, they sound like babies. They sound too feminine, or they sound pretentious, or all three of them.
Yeah, it was.
I just want to punch him. Like, shut the fuck up, man. Like, it's embarrassing. I don't know what you're saying, but it's embarrassing to hear you speak. And then they all have feminine scarves on, and they're walking around. And you go to cafes. I don't understand this about cafes, but like, it's a big deal, right? It's a big part of the culture there and in Italy or wherever else. Like, sitting at a cafe talking forever.
Yeah.
So when you're walking around Paris...
forever. Yeah.
Well, when you're walking around Paris in the middle of the day, in the middle of a Wednesday, and there's all these French people sitting at cafes drinking espresso, what the fuck are they doing? Do they work?
Students or workers, they could be on a break. They could,
like 5-hour break is more like it. And there's something pretentious about it too, right? Like, I noticed that when you're at a cafe and you're drinking your cafe, which is basically is an espresso to Americans, it's like you can't sit normal. No one sits normally. Either they have to sit with like perfect posture like this, or if you're a woman, everyone's legs are crossed as if they don't have any balls. Men, women, like, everyone's legs are like...
Women don't have balls.
But they're not crossed where your ankle's on your knee like this. It's like crossed where it's like knee against knee. But it's like even more, it's like thigh against thigh is how they're crossed. And they're like this, and they sit hunched over, and they're like this. This is what they do.
But it's because it's really tight in cafes.
I know,
like the notion of egress... like at restaurants and stuff in New York, like, you need to leave like the 3-foot aisle for people to be able to exit and stuff like that. It's super strict. Paris is like chairs on top of chairs. Like, you want to go to the bathroom? Well, good luck.
Is that why they sit that way?
Yeah, because they can't really step, too far on the sidewalk, so they're really contained, and they're trying to cram as many seats as possible. So everybody has purse and smoking and dogs and bags and whatever. So it's like it's really, really tight.
It must form a habit because everyone I saw, even if it wasn't busy, they all sat like really crammed and like really hunched over.
Yeah, well, I like sitting at a cafe and all that, but I don't like walking by people sitting at a cafe terrace.
Why?
Because they're just being like judging people who walk by. That's something I actually don't miss and I hate about French people in France, between French people, is that they're judging each other like all the time. And anywhere you go, they're judging you. Anything you do, and anything you wear, like they're going to be judging you.
But people do that in New York, people do that in LA, people do that in...
But they do it, but not in a good way. Like, they could judge you and like actually comment on you, like right there, or they can like just start laughing at you, but like kind of in a mean way.
Laughing at you?
No, seriously. That's
to your
why
face?
that's why like French kids are like extremely mean.
I think all kids are mean.
The French ones are particularly mean.
Little French shits.
French
I tell you what,
shit.
if there was a French kid around me and he was speaking French and he was being mean, I would kick him in the face. Fuck you.
Oh yeah, I would too.
Did your dad punch a kid in the face?
We had a family friend and they had two sons, and one of their son was, I don't know, 8 years old or something. And he comes and he punches my dad in his belly to like, I don't know.
Just because.
Joke or just because he's a kid.
How old was the kid?
I think he was 8 or 10, maybe.
It's pretty old.
Maybe 10. And so my dad was talking with the dad, and that kid just come and punched my dad in the belly. And my dad did not like it. So he punched him in his belly, punched him back. and the dad, our ex-family friend, looked at my dad and said, what are you doing? Are you crazy? It's like, why did he just punch me in the belly? Why would he be allowed to punch me in the belly and I can't? The kid was not happy. I think he was in pain because my dad is much
Your
bigger.
dad's a huge dude. His fist is probably the size of his entire torso.
So that's what the dad says. Like, oh, but you're like much bigger than him. My dad's like, and so? You don't punch people in the belly.
That's awesome. I am totally on board with that. Assuming he didn't No,
he didn't punch him like really hard.
Obviously.
But, I think the kid was probably more surprised than actually in pain and felt like ashamed that he did something he should not have done.
I'm totally fine with that. I mean, people need to learn that there's consequences to their behavior. And if a society always allows a certain kind of persons to get away with stuff because they know there's no physical repercussions, they're going to keep being dicks.
Well, especially when the parent is right there and it's not stepping in. Yeah. Like, okay, the kid did it. The kid probably doesn't know he should not have done it. He doesn't know because the dad is not telling him he should not have done it, Yeah. So somebody needs to step in. That's it.
That's brilliant. I bet that kid's better off because of it too.
He's a very nice guy now. I don't think he punches anybody in the belly anymore. I think he still remembers it.
So I don't know. The time in Paris was really, really, really short. I don't even really remember it. And then we got on a short flight to go to the south of France, right? Southwest France?
Center south.
Center south. The smallest airplane I'd ever been on, which was pretty cool. It wasn't that small. It wasn't like a propeller plane, a prop plane. Probably sat like 60 people.
At most.
2 on one side, 1 on the other side, tiny aisle in the middle, probably like 20 to 30 seats, 20 to 30 rows.
An hour flight. I love that they still served like drinks and snacks.
It was awesome. It was great service.
It was really nice.
Served drinks like twice or something strange, and snacks and
candy.
Candy. There was better service on that flight than we got on the 7 or 11 hour flight to and from Paris from California. But what's kind of funny with that kind of airplane, it's so like nonchalant. It's kind of, even when they make the announcements, they don't, like, she's barely even trying, the stewardess, and it's almost like, yeah, if there's a crash, you could duck, I guess, or whatever.
The thing is, they do the whole spiel about the inflatable things. I'm like, yeah, but it's land underneath, so if we crash, this is not going to do us any good, Maybe we can softly crash.
I think the thing too is it's like, the airplane was empty, but there's so few of us that if we crashed, like, we probably won't make the headlines, so don't worry about it. Like, who cares? You're not big enough. No, it doesn't matter enough.
But so it was such a small plane. Every time or the few times I flew in a tiny planes like this, I'm like, okay, who's driving today? Is it Bobby from the grocery store? Like, do we have a legit pilot? Or is it like a random guy who does that during the weekend, you know?
But I liked it. It was good. You go up, go down, get a drink, and then you've arrived. And when you arrive...
It was easy. Yeah.
What's weird is like, you know, an airplane of that size, it's also nice because you don't have to deal with the gangway. You don't have to deal with all these people. You just get off on the tarmac. You know, the stairs are on the back of the door. Door unfolds. You walk down the stairs. You walk into the airport, which is basically like a shed. It's a warehouse. It's a tiny warehouse.
That's pretty good, actually. The worst airport I went to, the boarding hall was a tent.
A tent? What?
Like, you know, like the big white tent with seats underneath. It was a tent.
Where was this?
Not too far from my hometown, flying Ryanair.
Oh, Ryanair.
Ryanair was like scary.
Ryanair, I've flown that. Yeah, it's I don't know if they get like airplanes after they've crashed or airplanes that didn't make it through the security check or something.
Or but prototypes, you know.
Or prototypes, because their airplanes do not feel safe.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's about.
Yeah, and the staff that comes in said same thing. It's like, they're rejected from the other airlines.
It's like the Walmart faculty, the Walmart employees, you know, are like working at a Ryanair. It's like, I don't think you should be on an airplane. Like,
do you even know how to open that door?
Walmart, fine. Airplane, no, not okay.
What's funny too is when you see the size of that plane compared to a normal plane we just got into. Yeah. It's like baby plane, normal plane.
Yeah,
you're like.
Yeah. So then we get to the small town and hanging out with your parents and stuff. That was amazing. I guess growing up in the States and in Southern California specifically and having not traveled a whole lot, it still blows my mind that these, you know, small countryside towns with buildings made out of masonry that are from 13th century or whatever is just like common. It's common. It's normal. Like for me, I took a bajillion photographs. I'm like, what about this building? Yeah, it's normal. Don't even bother looking at that building. It's no big deal.
I was like, the next town you go to is going to be the same. They're going to have the same ones.
Every time. This one looks old. Yeah, it's old. It's like, actually, no, you would say, yeah, it's all right. It's like 13th century. I'm like, this should be in a museum then. But it is amazing. And the kind of, the construction of those buildings is also so interesting because you see the history of how it was built. You know, now everything's so pristine that it's really about executing the idea of the design or whatever, but you don't understand how it was built. But those things, like that's this piece of stone I'm seeing, that's what's holding up the building. There's nothing else to it. There's no layers of waterproofing and membranes and other nonsense. Like this is it.
It's kind of like bare bones, honest architecture.
Honest, right.
It's not meant to look a certain way, to pretend to be of a certain status or for a certain expense. It's just, here is what kind of materials we have locally. Here is what we need to do. That's why we do it. That's how we do it. That's it. There's no like fussing around, right? And what's also very interesting is the kind of the local vernacular of the construction.
It's different from place to place.
Yeah, so my parents, the place we went to this time was the first time we actually went to see them because they just retired and moved region within France. And you could tell, like, you know, like the previous town I was in, there was buildings from like the 1300 made of stone too, but differently, you know, like the stones were more like squared out and like, you know, like more like masonry, like old CMU blocks kind of construction maybe. This particular area of France, the stones were kind of like broken stone and laid out in a vertical pattern or stacked and like dry stacked, no mortar or mortar. Like there was like different, you know, local techniques that were used, and that was very interesting. And, you know, even if we have like, you know, style from like in different states of construction, you know, like flat roof, New Mexico, Louisiana, front porch and whatever, those things are kind of getting lost currently, I feel like, you know, like it's more like it's not really international style. It's more like a standardized,
just
generic style of architecture that could be put anywhere, really.
Are you talking about the single family or like multifamily, the 3 to 5 story housings that you see going up?
Both of them. I mean, even in France, like the new types of single-family homes that are built for like an average middle-class family has nothing to do with like, that type of local construction. Those houses are, one developer came out one day with the idea and it's just like, they just keep reproducing them. And
and there's a question of preservation, which is difficult, but I think it's also, like you said, those houses made out of masonry, out of stone, their identity was tied with their structure, with their way of fabricating. It's all one and the same, right? And that gives it presumably some kind of meaning, or we feel like that it has meaning, we project meaning onto it. And in the town that your parents were at, which is the same as all these other towns that are made of these kinds of structures, it's really fascinating because on one hand, the architecture is very specific in that way, but at the same time, because it's historic or it's, was made a long time ago, like the architecture just becomes a background for human life and for human activity. Like the community in those towns, like no one's living in those towns, not just because of the architectural thing, it's more to do with like just the way of life. The food, the people, the quietness, the landscape, and not really so much to do with like an architectural style.
And that reminds me what Wes Jones said about, how maybe architecture should be more about creating a vernacular, like creating a fabric for people to live versus creating a monument or an icon. And that's the beauty of those towns, is that, all of the houses are using the same kind of materials, more or less the same construction techniques, but the same kind of materials. Mm-hmm. They're each unique. There is no house that's the exact same, which is amazing. They each have like singularities here and there that makes them individual. But there is like this uniformed cohesion of them existing with each other and creating an environment that's cohesive, right?
And all of the nuances that make each of them different feel more sincere because they're directly related to the fabrication and structure of the building. Yeah. You make a change in the detail. That's not a superficial thing made out of icing. It's something that means the structure is going to have to change, or you're going to have to add bracing or whatever it is. It's really interesting. And the struggle now meaning, the last hundreds of years, when construction has become much more sophisticated for the better, it gives you much more freedom to do whatever, but like, what do you do then? And you were kind of highlighting the kind of residential architecture we see now, the typical single family. We're not talking custom high-end stuff. Typical single family, or even an easier highlight would be the multifamily housings, the 3 to 5 story housings you see everywhere. They're kind of modern. There's something disgustingly average and without soul about all of those, and they all look the same, and it's an issue. And we actually need to talk about this on a separate show, but the architecture community as a whole has completely failed society because we haven't produced a better option. I don't know why these things exist, but these types of architecture has come around, but it has, and it's really, really depressing. And I suppose if these new residences were constructed in a way where, again, the structure, the fabrication, the detailing, and how it looks were all tied into one, perhaps they wouldn't be so hideous.
But, I think it probably came from the fact that the aspect of people buying the property or like reselling, right? You have to design in the understanding that you're not designing for yourself. You kind of have to design to please anybody for them to buy, or you've got to fix your house to please anyone who's trying to sell it, and when people design those homes in the 1300s, they're not thinking about, I'm going to build my house thinking like the next person buying it will like it and buy it. They're building their house because they had a need to buy, to build their house for themselves. Mm-hmm. But because of those like cycle of,
the market-driven
market and real estate and all that, everything, and architecture, you hire an architect to design a multifamily, everything is vanilla. Everything is like, like no flavor. So it's not too spicy, it's not too sweet, it's not too salty, it's flavorless, so everyone will like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, people didn't used to design like this before or build like that before, and people will still buy the old stuff. So, and they're gonna rip it off anyway and make it their own. So, why don't you just go out?
Yeah, this is exactly why I really hate market-driven design and people who only live their lives by data and what the data tells me, what the market tells me. Fuck you. You think you're gonna make a difference in the world and progress by doing this? No, you're not. You're not questioning anything. You're just doing what the numbers tell you. I really hate it. It really irks me. And it really irks me when people like that think that they know what a good design is, or they think that their way is the ultimate way because the numbers say so. No, you're completely wrong, sir. It's the opposite, in fact. Something why I'm glad that I don't work for any developers right now. It's exhausting to hear that same thing from them. Oh, the market says that this or that. Okay, great. Really exciting work.
I mean, I guess they're gambling with tons of money, they're trying to be rational and reassure themselves somehow.
Yep.
And I understand it, but it's just sad.
It is sad because that all goes back to money and a concern that you're not going to make enough or that you're going to lose money. But should that be the thing that drives our decision making in creating environments aesthetically? Probably not. Should be probably more about the people living in it. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, no, going through visiting those French towns in the what's called the region of the Le Lot.
Yeah.
In France, which is also...
Oh, the scarf is so fucking hot. How did the Frenchmen do it?
That's the other thing. I'm getting used to ACs here. And so everywhere in France we were going, I was like, oh, it's too hot. It's too hot. It's sweaty. All the towns we went to were pretty interesting and incredible. One of them, I think one or two of them, had... basically, like, the whole town was built against the cliff. I felt like I was in Game of Thrones for a few days, to be honest. Yeah. Like little intricate stairs and pathways and like trees and like, it was really... it felt like I was in a game. Yeah. I just wanted to keep like wandering around and see what else I could find that was more beautiful than what I just found.
You're talking about the one where we saw like the structural remnants from the houses that were washed away or collapsed.
Oh,
you could see indentation. Yeah.
That was really cool. Yeah, that was really cool. I
kind of wonder. Sometimes I hate the fact that I've seen all these things in other media first. Like I've seen it in video games. I've seen it in Lord of the Rings. I've seen it on Instagram or whatever. Because I feel like it kind of ruins it in a way. Like I wonder what my reaction would be had I never seen any of this stuff and then I showed up at this place. Like how would I feel then? Would my perception of it be different? Would what my insights about it be different? You know what I mean? Because that's the first thought. You go, oh wow, this looks like Game of Thrones.
It's like the first time I came to California, I was like, oh, this looks like Desperate Housewives homes.
Right? But what if you just went there and you hadn't seen Desperate Housewives before? I feel like that's got to be a better way to live life. I don't know.
Well, you got to go to the places in the world you've never seen before.
But here's the thing also. We went to that place where they build on the cliffside. It's like, what, hundreds and hundreds feet in the air. It's amazing, but I couldn't help wonder, why did they build that high? Why not just build at the ground and not go up there? It's not necessary to go up there. Unless they came from above and repelled and on the way down, they're like, I don't want to go all the way down there. Let's just build on the side of the mountain, on the side of the cliff.
Well, the second one we went to, we had lunch at where the castle was at the top. They often put the castle at the top, so,
but that's a castle.
It's safer.
But the ones that are built on the side of a cliff, like the houses, like why just
there was not a river that runs at the bottom, so maybe that was also safer.
If it floods.
If it floods.
I don't know. It just seemed like it made lives extra difficult.
Again, I mean, it's free materials, right? Like one of your wall is the cliff, so that's one wall less to build.
I don't know though. That's still a real pain in the ass to climb all that way. I mean, they went so high up. It's like just climb up another 50 feet and then be on top of the cliff. Then you have a beautiful view. The river, if it floods, not going to be a problem. And you don't have to climb upstairs on the side of the cliff. Just live up there.
No, but yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either.
The other thing is maybe it's because they use the mass of the thermal mass of the cliff.
Could be.
Like that region of France actually gets really hot during the summer. So I'm sure having one side that's the cliff side really helps the inside temperature of the homes.
Or maybe there's like dragons or something. And so if you're on the cliff, you're protected on one side. You know what I mean? And pterodactyls and shit are flying around back in the 1800s or whatever. Totally inaccurate. That was pretty wild to see.
But so what's interesting is that most of those towns are actually they're actually only busy and active like 6 months of the year.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Which when we went, there wasn't really the season started yet. Season starts in April, so it felt a lot of times like a ghost town, which I kind of liked in a way because I hate going to touristy places with like a bunch of like short flag tourists and why not
Asians.
No. I was thinking Germans, but
Germans aren't short.
Yeah, they're blonde, they wear shorts, and they're loud.
That's true. All the Germans we see on vacation, that's basically them. Yeah, and they're plump. They're very plump.
They're gross.
They're either plump or they're really skinny. They look like skeletons or they're plump. I'm not sure what it is. And they're always climbing over the borders and stuff.
It was kind of nice that it was pretty much empty. And at the same time, I was like, well, I wish that place was open. It would have been interesting to go inside of that shop and this one, and
Yep. And then we had lunch at that one place. We had Sarla. It's a weird name for a town. Sarla.
Sarla?
Yeah. Go there, eat lunch. My lunch was basically snacks. It's kind of weird. Like you would consider that in the States to be an appetizer. Like here's a plate of cheese and various meats and a little bit of salad. Okay.
It wasn't a plate of cheese. It was a full cheese.
Well, they would fine, whatever. But cheese, little bits of meat and salad and fries. These are appetizers before the meal. But it's like perfectly acceptable in France for that to just be the meal. Like my meal was snacks, which sounds amazing, but when you have to make an entire meal out of like 3 things, like the amount of cheese you have to consume it's like a wheel of cheese.
Well, the thing is, that kind of meal in France is a snack here because here it's more expensive to get that stuff, so you're only going to eat a little bit of it.
Yeah. Fine. But I mean, it was like a bowl of cheese.
You know what it looked like?
It's like, when you're, well, maybe you don't know, but when you're a kid and you're doing like an art project or something and you need to make a river, what you do is you take white glue, you dump out a fuck ton of white glue and you mix color dye to make it look like a river. Or you have like a dish and you put a bunch of white glue in it, right? And it feels really unnatural because usually white glue you use a little bit, but in this case it's like a bowl of white glue. This is what it looked like. It was a bowl. So something really wrong about having a bowl of cheese for a meal.
What are you talking about?
A bowl of cheese for a meal. Just cheese.
What about the fondue? That's a meal.
Yeah, but it's shared and you dip things into it. It's
just shared. Bread in cheese. I mean,
it's a shared thing though. But to have one on your own, it just felt really, it was delicious, but it was still very clogged my pores. Felt very heavy afterwards. Not easy on the tract. I probably had like 200 fiber pills in like the 6 days we were in France. The only time I eat salad is when I'm in France. Anytime there's salad, yes, I need salad. Bring me salad. Where are you going? I gotta take my fiber pills. And I don't buy the fact that cheese doesn't, affect you in that way. It's got to.
Oh, what was affecting you was the traveling and all that kind of stuff, but not the cheese.
I know. I don't believe that.
I grew up eating cheese all the time, and I don't have constipation problems because of that.
Well, maybe what you think constipation is just shifted from mine.
I have cheese running in my veins.
It's disgusting.
Imagine.
No.
I would slice my arms like more than twice a day just to have
disgusting. What is wrong with you? It's so gross. Ugh.
I'm just full of cheese inside.
No,
imagine.
Quiet. It's gross. It's so gross. You know how stinky that would be?
I'm not stinky.
Cheese is stinky.
No,
it smells like feet.
My parents had a piece of cheese in their fridge, and every time somebody would open the fridge, it was like, oh, it smells.
I don't get it because, like, who ate that first type of cheese? You know, like goat cheese, it's not too strong. Okay, I could eat that. Came from a goat, turned into this solid thing. It smells right, tastes good, right? Another cheese comes from a goat or from whatever mammal, which is weird. And then it gets hard and it smells like feet and ass. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to eat this on my bread. How does that happen?
I don't know. I wasn't there when that was created.
You can't deny some of the cheese is really strong and like it smells not good.
Oh, yeah.
So who's the person who decided to eat it first?
I mean, you know, same with like, let's say Chinese food. That's not cheese. It stinks, but people love it. So Chinese food has some smells that sometimes, or like fish, like strong fish smell. Sometimes it's not appetizing at all.
Well, that's what you're thinking of, like the fish market in New York City in Chinatown on a hot summer day.
I'm thinking of
what, Japan? It's not China, obviously, but do you like walking to the Japanese fish market? You're turned off by that smell, or do you think breakfast?
No, it's mostly like the dry stores, like Chinese stores that have all kinds of like
salt. Yeah,
like
that stuff is
dried
nasty.
Salted fish thing.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Same question.
Roots, whatever.
Who's the China man who decided to eat that stuff?
Yeah.
My only assumption is that it probably was created back in the day when people didn't have refrigerators or the option, and they just ate it. And I would guess everything else back then just smelled like crap anyway. So it was like, yeah, this smells like everything else. Fine, eat it. Right?
Well, yeah, people were just not that picky because they could only eat a certain amount of things. So, you know, they're not complaining about, oh, it smells bad, I'm not going to have any.
I guess that's true.
It's just like, that's what's for dinner. So you guess what? You eat or you don't.
I guess that's true. All right. Observations about cheese and Chinese people and what they eat. But then we went to that restaurant in Sarla, and you didn't notice because you're sitting across from me, but a gentleman sitting behind our table was staring at me the entire time. It was a little weird.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like staring at me. And I was sitting on the far right of the table, so I was looking this direction, which meant I was also looking toward him most of the time, which is why I kept saying him just staring at me. And I look over, he's not staring at what's beyond me because there's nothing beyond me. So just staring at me. So what I chose to do was I winked at him. And then he said, and then he stopped staring at me. And then he stopped staring.
He was probably staring because there was a family of 5 white people and 1 Asian guy sitting quietly at the end of the table, stuffing his face with cheese and charcuterie.
Yeah. And what?
Charcuterie?
Oh, the meats. Right. Yeah, probably. I actually thought I was going to get more stares or kind of funny looks or whatever, because everywhere we went, I think we only saw 1 Asian the entire
in Paris
trip, outside of the airports. Just 1 Asian.
I think in that part of France, they used to see a lot of tourists during the rest of the year, deal. So I don't think it's a big deal.
But like when we were in Marseille the last time, I got a lot of looks. Me and my family, we got a lot of looks. I didn't like it. And Marseille, they're a bit rougher sometimes, right? So it wasn't like an intrigued kind of like, ooh, it was more like a suspicious kind of eyeball.
Well, and there is not many Asians in France, and I feel like if there is some, they're kind of quiet. You're not really a quiet Asian, so...
Well, in France, I'm quiet. I don't speak French.
And also, if you sound American, then they're like, oh, an American.
An American French. How confusing is this? Yeah. So I had written down... You said something about the French being lazy?
Yeah, the French are lazy. It's not entirely their fault. I think it's mostly because of the French system that, just doesn't encourage them to be more active.
That's kind of funny you say that, because that's a popular argument amongst conservatives in the United States, that if we go toward that end of the spectrum and we have more government that helps people, then it's going to produce lazy people. But my position is always, I don't want to get into it too much, but my position is always like, well... Or it'll just give people the freedom to explore what they want to do and not be constrained by working 5 jobs just to cover rent and food. Like, I think we should, fix that bottom percentage, and I don't think that's a problem. So I don't know if it produces laziness. It will for some, but fuck them, they're lazy. Who cares?
That's the thing, it will for some, and I think, France and the US are kind of each one on their own extreme. Maybe France has too much help, and the US don't have any. And I think both of those systems have their limitation, but
I don't get it. So if someone is lazy because the government offers too much help, then that's fine. I don't think that's a problem. Laziness is not a curse. If they're lazy and happy, then fine, be lazy and happy. But it's going to help.
The problem is that they're lazy, but they cost money to the non-lazy ones. So, like part of your taxes go to the lazy fucks who don't do shit. Yeah, and you're working your ass off, and the problem in France is that you can make you can live comfortable, you can live fine without having any jobs. So why would you wake up at like 5 every morning and go to work if you could just stay in bed until 12 and make the same amount of money? That's a problem.
And your primary issue is that funding is coming from the people who are working.
Yeah. I mean, in that case, we could all stop working and just be lazy fucks. And then what's going to happen,
More babies. I don't know. I mean, I guess you could help people out enough to where they, don't have these issues that we're talking about, but not enough to where they don't have to work at all.
It's a tricky business. In the same time, like my parents are middle-class people and they're in their 60s and they're retired. It's not like they're going to go on vacation every week now that they're retired, because the amount of money that they're going to get is not going to be, excessive. But they're still able to retire. When here you have people who are in their late 70s who are still working to somehow survive and might need to work until they die, basically. So it's...
Yeah, I have a problem with that. I mean, I think I like the idea of being part of a system where it's designed to support others, and the mentality of like, this is mine and I don't want to give it up to help other people, when clearly you have more than enough money to survive, go on vacation and be happy and yada yada yada, and you don't want to give a small percentage of up to help others. I think the mentality in general is I don't find very flattering. I don't like it. It doesn't sound very nice to me. I'd rather be in a system and a group of people where they're like, yeah, I'll pitch in, fine. This person, that way they can, retire when they're frankly probably shouldn't be working anymore and they should be able to enjoy life and things. This sounds like a nicer way to do things. Also, I kind of wonder if that kind of freedom from financial burden allows for a more philosophical society, because you're given more time to hang out and think about stuff, and you're less busy with just being in the grind. That's
the thing, it's really strikes me now more than ever before, actually, is that life is easy in France. It's simple. You don't need to borrow a shit ton of money. You don't need to work your ass off until you die to live okay. You just have a job, spend a normal amount of money and you'll be completely fine. Unless something really wrong happens to you.
But even then, your healthcare is covered.
Well, you have to pay some healthcare insurance and stuff, but
it's not like here.
No, it's not like
here. See, my feeling is here you're always in fear, right? If you have student debt is a thing, right? So if you have student debt, you're always living under the cloud of that, under the fear that you're not going to be able to pay it off or whatever. And health insurance is so ridiculous that you're always living with the fear that if something happens to you, you don't have a lot of money, you're kind of fucked. Or if you don't have a bunch of family and people who support you, then you're super fucked.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe in France there isn't that sense.
You don't have student loans in France.
Yeah.
You would take a loan to buy a house or to buy a car, but you wouldn't take a loan to live. You wouldn't put thousands of dollars on a credit card. You would use your checking account most of the time and use a credit card if you need to pay something in like multiple months, for example. So it's not a huge burden to carry over for a long period of time, right? It's like kind of like you go with what you have kind of thing.
Do you think though that people are aware, like you have this perspective because you've lived in both places, so when you go back to France now, you kind of view some of the French people as having, a good life, like you have it easy, is one way to put it, right? Do you think that the people there have that opinion, or no, because they've only been in France, so they don't know anything else?
They've only been in France, and it's if they have never been exposed to another way of functioning, they won't understand it,
right?
And they won't even think about it, and they won't even care about it. Right. But it is true that's why it pisses me off when I go to France and people are like, oh, it's so hard, oh, this or that. I'm like, no, it's not fucking hard. You're in France. There is places that can help you. There is financial aid if you can't, find a job. Like, you get an employment without anything. Like, there is ways.
Yeah.
You have health problems. Well, yeah, okay, you might need to, chip in a little bit, but there is options. Like, you're not alone. There is options. When here, it's you're fighting for yourself. There is nothing really helping you out from the country, from the government. So it pisses me off because I know that it's harder in other places, but I can't really be pissed at them because they don't know.
Right.
It's kind of unfair, but in the same time, I'm pissed that they don't even think that there might be the harder way of living. So anyway.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people we know who are thinking about having kids or have kids, they're seriously considering just moving to France because of the cost of education and healthcare and everything like that.
My kids will go to France for school. I won't take loans here. This is just crazy town. I'll take a loan to buy a house. I'm not going to take a loan to send my kid to a 5-year school and then he's going to change his mind and want to do something else. Like, no. I wanted to be an architect. Well, guess what? You're going to be an architect or you're just going to go to France.
I mean, that's not a bad... I mean, out of those two, I'd probably go to France. That sounds fun. Be an architect or go to France. Let's go to France. Here's a question. Is it common for... So the interesting thing about the trip this time is that we got to hang out at your parents' house for a number of days and have home-cooked meals in a row, which is different from like going to Paris and sightseeing every single day and then leaving the country. So is it common that for breakfast you have, just some toast and some spread and some orange juice and coffee, and you don't have like a bunch of meat with eggs and stuff?
Oh, you don't have savory for breakfast in France?
You don't have savory? Okay.
If you do, it's not a French breakfast. It's kind of like, oh, we're doing an American breakfast, or
we're doing an American breakfast. Is this from your family, or like this to be the case from? Okay.
That was actually the toughest part when I lived in California for the first time. Was getting breakfast places. It wasn't anything like the French one, and I was like, ugh. I don't want to eat meat for breakfast. Sausage? What? Bacon? What?
Oh, man. Yeah, sounds good.
Ketchup at breakfast? Are you cray-cray?
Denny's Grand Slam, baby.
You could maybe find eggs in the French breakfast if you want to do like a brunch, breakfast.
Right.
Like probably toast some like scrambled eggs in there. But it's not common.
Not common. Okay, right.
It's all sweet.
All sweet. And is it normal for you to keep your bread on the table and not on the plate?
Oh, yeah. You don't put your bread on the plate.
You don't put it on the plate?
No, there is like sauce and different things in the plate. You don't know what you're going to use your bread for. You could be right now. You could eat half now, half with your cheese. Who knows what can happen with a piece of bread?
It's so versatile. You just put it on the edge of the plate where there's no sauce.
No.
I
mean, you would if there is like no tablecloth on the table and you're not sure the table is clean, you put it on your plate. If you have tablecloth, no, you just put it on the tablecloth.
Okay, right. And then is it common to eat salad at the end of the meal? Because that seems quite odd to me.
It is. It's to help the digestion, right? So you stuff your face with appetizers, main course, any kind of food, but you still have to run through cheese and dessert. So you kind of need some green to like make it slide down, take some air, some breathing, and then go back at it.
So it's common to have appetizers, which would be like bread?
No, bread is not an appetizer.
What's the appetizer?
Bread is bread.
I don't know. Go to the States, go to the restaurant. Where's my bread?
Appetizers, you could have what's called the crudité, which is the raw vegetables.
Okay.
So like
sounds very healthy.
Like salads, like the shredded carrots with some sauce.
Okay.
Or you could have some like hard-boiled eggs or tomato salad or like cold things. Or you can have some charcuterie, like some pâté or some stuff like that, or some ham.
And then the main course. And then salad. And then cheese.
You can have salad and cheese together. It helps eating the cheese a little bit. And the vinaigrette goes
really well. Because salad's disgusting,
well.
really. Right, that's what it is.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No.
That's why you add cheese and you add dressing and you add all
You
this
actually
shit.
said you like the salad in France.
Oh, only because my body is physically in need of
So
salad.
you shitting me? You are like, oh, it tastes so pure. It's so simple. I like it. I was like, what's wrong with you? It's just salad.
What's French salad? Now, everything in French just tastes better. So then you have the main course, then you have salad and then cheese and then dessert. So is it also common that after lunch and as an afternoon snack and as a dessert after dinner to have yogurt? 3 times.
No, twice only.
Twice only.
After
Don't give me the look as if what I'm saying is crazy.
Where have you been?
Well, who the fuck eats salad after the meal then eats a block of cheese? That's where I'm at. So when do we eat the
all
yogurt?
the French people in this world.
Yeah, the French are weird. So the yogurt, when do we eat yogurt?
It's the dessert.
After dinner.
At lunch.
Well, see, we don't have dessert after lunch.
Well, in France we have dessert.
Okay.
Like we like, using different notes, different flavors throughout the meal.
Okay.
Right? So we got to use all of them.
So yogurt after lunch.
Yeah.
Yogurt as an afternoon snack.
No, it's typically more like a sweet stuff or fruit.
Okay, for the afternoon snack.
Yeah.
So the next question is it common
And
for
dinner you have another yogurt. Yeah.
another yogurt? Okay, right, which is why there's so much yogurt in the grocery
In the store.
stores.
Yeah.
A plethora of yogurt.
Not enough, never enough yogurt.
No, okay. Is it also common for meals, lunch and dinners, to last like 6 fucking hours?
No. I mean, they would last a
Couple hours.
like I don't know if it was
3
just,
hours.
If it was just like my parents and my sister eating at home, it would be
Sure.
like half an hour,
Sure.
45 minutes
Sure.
at most.
Sure.
But when you're like family gathering, it's longer.
It's like- it's like
Everybody eats
3,
at different
4
speeds.
hours.
One of them talks more and didn't eat, so we gotta catch up.
I mean, I don't know. I grew up in an Asian American family, so we kind of did things in a hybrid way. So I don't know how the average American meal works. Maybe there's an appetizer. I think for most people who eat at home, there's not an appetizer. That's too fancy. You just kind of eat the meal. But, there's maybe the appetizer, then there's the main meal, and then maybe there's dessert. I didn't grow up with dessert, so it's not normal for me. But it kind of, everything gets put out at once, and then you eat it. But I'm really not used, my body is not used to sitting, eating something. Then you wait and you sit, and then you bring out something else, and you eat it. And then you sit, then something else comes out, you eat that, and you sit. Then something else comes out, you eat that, you sit, and then it goes on and on and on. Like, the meals last so long
But again,
that
that's
either
because
everyone's butts are numb or they're flat or something. I don't know how people do it.
But again, your 6 people family gathering, it's gonna take longer.
It won't matter. Oh, and then after the dessert, you have tea or coffee. It's not the longest thing. The meals are so long in France. It's like you're living an entire life in that meal. It's like relationships are made, broken up, and then fixed during the meal.
Yeah, but that's because first the food tastes really good, and people want to enjoy it, and they
Yeah.
just take time. Hey, you stuff your face because the food doesn't taste good, so you just want to be over with it, right?
I don't know.
You're like, okay, how's lunch? And then you're like, I don't feel good, my body hurts. Well, yeah, you just ate your lunch in like 10 minutes. That's just gross.
I think I don't know if people eat quickly because they think the food is. Well,
I
the
eat
food is
quickly,
good.
if I'm starving or if I really don't enjoy the food and I want to be over with.
Right. Well, I don't know. It takes some getting used to, but in the future, I would at least appreciate to know like how many courses there are, what's happened next. Because when I get to the table as an American and I see the appetizer, this is a weird land. I don't know what to eat. Yesterday, I had a lunch that was just a bunch of snacks. So I see a bunch of snacks on the table. I presume this is the meal. So I'm going to eat all of it. And all of a sudden, oh, wait, no, here's the main course. Okay, eat the main course. Oh, by the way, here's salad. Salad? All right, fine, salad. Here's cheese. Cheese? What is this?
Okay, there is one advice I would give,
and not only
like if you don't know what's gonna happen throughout the meal, is when you have French meals, you always have a piece of bread on the table, so you can have bread at any moment of time.
It's dangerous though.
During the meal, the advice is do not stuff your belly with the bread. Because the bread takes room in your belly, you won't be able to make it to the end. And what you did was the complete opposite. You just stuffed yourself with bread. And I think by the middle of the week, I was like, there is another dish coming. Slow down. Like, you don't have. I was like, you don't have to finish it, because I knew you couldn't finish it all. And I was like, I don't want him to throw up tonight, so I'm just gonna warn him. Don't feel like you have to finish it. This is a lot you have on your plate.
It is a lot to have on a plate. And then when they give you the cheese, it's like, you want cheese? First of all, it's a weird question to ask me if I want cheese. No one offers people cheese unless it's string cheese. Do you want string cheese? I understand string cheese. Do you want cheese? With what? With what? What do you mean have cheese? So not only is it weird by itself, but then when they give you cheese, it's so thick, you can measure it in inches. It's like, how many inches of cheese do you want? The thickness of the cheese. It's crazy. I couldn't get used to it. I tried. After 6 days of eating cheese, I worked up to eating like larger pieces, but man, it's weird to eat like a 2-inch thick piece of cheese. It's really strange.
Because it's not weirder to, I don't know, go get a slice of cake here and get like half a cake as a slice. I mean, if you want to talk about sizes, the food proportions here are insane.
Well, that's if you go out. But even at home in France, you eat just massive amounts of cheese.
Yeah, it's not like your country's ever going to run out.
Yeah, I know. I'm not. I guess I just can't get used to that.
My dad is a vegetarian too, so he has to eat on something. So he's really into cheese.
Yes, you fill it up.
So if you want some, you better eat some what there is still left.
I mean, the proportions of cheese you guys eat in one sitting is so massive that really the size of the piece of cheese that you buy should be twice the size.
Oh, but that's why you buy cheese multiple times a week.
I guess so. Yeah. And the nice thing about traveling, or the interesting thing about it, is that when you're in the middle of the week, you gotta, you have to maintain yourself. You can't go overboard with what you like, because then the system gets backed up and it causes problems. You have to be responsible and maintenance, right? Lots of greens, lots of fiber pills. The benefit of like the last 2 days, if you're in a country like France, fuck it. Makes no difference if you're constipated, because you'll be constipated when you get back to the States, which is fine. I can be constipated here. I can solve the problem here. Can't solve the problem in France. The last 2 days went nuts. You feed me all the cheese and the bread in the world, doesn't make a difference. I'll be on that plane constipated, not going to make a difference. I'm not going to use the bathroom on the plane anyway. It's like freedom. You know what I mean?
Wow, so much constipation stories.
It's a lot to think about when you travel. It's a lot to think about. Oh, man.
Time to go eat cheese now.
Cheese.
All right.
Should
we wrap it up?
Oh, one last question. Is it totally normal for people, in France to buy their water in bottles? People just don't drink out of the tap?
You can drink out of the tap in like big cities. Like I used to drink tap water in Paris because the filtration is so good that water is so completely fine. Like in New York, but in smaller town, it's not that great probably. Or it could have a taste of bleach.
Really?
Like chlorine.
Yeah.
So if you're particular on your taste of water, it's better to just buy water bottles.
And then how come
my old town, the town near my old town where I grew up, there was potable water fountains in the street with water coming out from like a spout, and we would go with giant gallon water bottle, plastic bottle, and fill it up.
Like Mad Max. Give me the water. When is the water coming?
Yeah, but it was like perfectly good potable water. It actually tasted really good.
Right. But you have to get a bucket and walk to the
but we
water.
would buy, like the big 2-gallon water bottles. Right. And after you drink it, you keep them and you just go refill them.
Okay. And your means of transportation was primarily like donkeys, presumably.
What's with your donkeys? No, I like donkeys. I also like to eat donkeys.
But so how come the bottled water... Why is it that there's normal bottled water and you guys have magnesium water?
Oh, there's different types of water. French people are really about their water.
It's
we have
weird.
Mountains, the Alps, and
we just have water
stuff.
Here. I mean, we have different brands, but everyone knows it's kind of just to
you
sell.
have like the Evian water. You have the Perrier, the natural springy ones. Like there's different types for different people.
But why is there magnesium?
There's flavored water too.
Why magnesium?
Because you're low in magnesium.
Who knows if they're low in magnesium, though?
Well, you get your blood checked and you know if you're low in magnesium.
So complicated. Last question. Why does the bottled water taste so weird?
Because you probably drank the magnesium one.
Okay. It does taste funny.
Oh, yeah, it tastes different. Yeah.
It doesn't taste that. You don't feel quenched afterwards. You feel like you just ate a battery. You know what I mean? It's like, give me some water.
It's not my favorite,
water.
but I have no problem drinking it.
Yeah.
I like the bubble water though.
That tastes funny too. It's like tasting a burp or something. It's not.
I'm glad you had such a good time.
After those water, it's like, where's the fucking normal water that tastes like water? Everything tastes kind of.
All right, I tell my parents. According to David, water tastes like a battery and burp. You guys just drink burp water.
So anyone going to France, these are the tips to be aware of these things, right?
Yeah.
Maybe bring a butt cushion for your dinners. Long butt cushion. Know the dinners are like 8 courses. Maybe make a list of things to talk about because you sit for like 5 hours. There's things to talk about. Be prepared to get into fights during dinner and then make up during dinner and also make fights again during dinner and maybe fall in love and have a baby during dinner because that's how long the dinners last. Be prepared for water that tastes funky and we should be good. Right? All right. Travel show. Here we come. All right. That's it. And that's it for now. Let's wrap it up. We're good?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening. Talk to you again soon. Bye.
Au revoir.